Well, Razorback fans, what type of quarterback can Taylen Green be? He grew up watching one. Can he be just as good as him? Well, we'll talk about it on today's Locked On Razorbacks podcast.
You are Locked On Razorbacks, your daily podcast on the Arkansas Razorbacks. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome into the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. I am your host, John Nabors. I am also the host of Inside Arkansas Live, which you can catch every weekday starting at noon on Inside Arkansas and InsideArkansas.com. This episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances and use Monarch Money. And use that code LOCKEDONCollege for monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. Hope everybody's having a wonderful Monday and you made it through the weekend. Hopefully it's enjoyable. We're going to talk a little basketball here in just a little bit and get into that, as well as J.J. Andrews just continuing to be that guy. And then also a good clip from Cal, but also something else I wanted to talk about with him. But, you know, it's good to be back, for one, back in Fayetteville. I am mentally and physically, emotionally, spiritually exhausted. But hey, that's no complaints here. It's good to be back. It's good to be back in a routine of sorts. And hopefully we can just get back into it and get ready for fall camp, which will be here before we know it. So, but appreciate everybody that tuned in. Appreciate all of the people that, hung out and talked about some of the stuff with Arkansas, because now it's about the next step. You know, I mentioned this past week about Arkansas being picked to finish 14th in the SEC, which from my interpretation is one of, if not the lowest they've ever been picked in general. I mean, there's been times they were picked to finish 6th in the SEC West back in the day. But, I mean, if you looked at those times, that was when Vanderbilt, Kentucky wasn't very good, and South Carolina had their struggles. You know, you never really knew exactly where they were at in the full pecking order. But the point is that it is one of, if not the lowest Arkansas has ever been picked. Last year was 13th, this year's 14th, and it is what it is. So, for Arkansas, and this upcoming season, as you all know, and what we've talked about, it's about Taylen Green. Taylen Green, after talking with him a little bit, first off, as people who saw the video that I interviewed him, he's just really tall. I'm not that short. I'm pretty normal sized, I feel like, average size. I'm like 5'11", maybe 6 foot, somewhere in there. But he's just a really tall individual. So there's that. But he's a really stylish running quarterback. Not talking about clothing. I'm just talking about his style. His style is very open. It's very creative. It's very improvised. There's an element of trust in there that Bobby Petrino has for him, and the different things that he can do, and his ability to do things that, you know, you wouldn't even think about. Stuff that you can't coach, if you will. He has speed that we haven't seen really, and I mean this, since Matt Jones at quarterback. I'm not saying he's as fast as Matt Jones. We just haven't seen speed like that. And that's saying something, because Arkansas's had some pretty good, fast, athletic quarterbacks. I think KJ Jefferson was one. Brandon Allen was sneaky good at it. But there's no doubt that Taylen Green has that element to his game. And he mentioned at SEC Football Media Days last week a lot of different things. But one of the things he mentioned is that he grew up watching Kyler Murray, Oklahoma quarterback, now over at Arizona, or whatever he's doing. I don't even know if he's at Arizona anymore. Doesn't matter. He was a Heisman winner, played at Oklahoma. And I heard that, and two things hit me. One, man, I'm old, because if you're hearing a college quarterback and he says, I grew up watching Kyler Murray, oh, man, that's like saying, yeah, I grew up watching KJ Jefferson or something, or I grew up watching Baker Mayfield. It's like, oh, okay, sure. That was my first reaction. But my second reaction was, really? Kyler Murray? I mean, that's cool and all, but he was a Heisman winner. But is that something you want to model your game after? Is that the type of quarterback you want to be? And the more I thought about it, I started kind of convincing myself that, there might be something to that. There might be something to being in that role or in that type of approach of a quarterback, even though Taylen Green's got probably 7, 8 inches on him as far as his height goes. But if you look at the speed element to it, I think there is a bit of a similarity. I don't know who runs a faster 40 time. I don't know who gets out into space and can really, take off running and score a touchdown from anywhere on the field. Like, I don't know who's in that realm. But as far as the speed, it is pretty similar. The only difference is that you see one guy being shorter, his legs move a lot quicker and a lot faster. But the other one has longer legs that cover more ground. But at the same time, the speed remains the same. We know it's about improving the accuracy of Taylen Green. We know it's about cutting down turnovers for Taylen Green. But so often, and I'm guilty of this, I only discuss the passing element to Taylen. It's kind of like, oh yeah, well, running's there. But the passing, the accuracy, the turnovers, that's got to fix itself. It's almost like I pass over the element of the run game and him being able to beat you with his legs because it's just known. It's just, well, it's there. There's a science to it as well. There's a science to how quarterbacks can approach their own running attack, and when it comes to a few major elements. One, they have to be able to do it. You have to be able to have some sort of speed and some sort of running ability. If you're going to look like Peyton Manning out there or Tom Brady out there with your legs, I mean, that ain't it. And there's not many occasions where you're going to choose to run. But you got to be able to have the ability. And on top of that, you also have to be able to be smart with that ability. You have to be able to be smart of when to know when to slide, when to run out of bounds, when to try to muscle up and get that extra yardage because it's third down and you need it. You got to have it. And to fight for that position. You got to know when to stop and to run. Instead of just checking one wide receiver, be like, well, he's not open, so I'm running. You have to do checkdowns, progressions. You have to be able to move the pocket a little bit. You have to be aware of the blind side over on this side. There's so many things you have to be aware of with that ability, and you got to be making good choices and when to choose when to use it. And that, to me, is the most important, is choosing when to run, when not to run. When to throw, when not to throw. That's something that I think is overlooked at times. I don't care if Taylen Green throws for an 80-yard touchdown or runs for an 80-yard touchdown because both count the same. Both are touchdowns. You don't get more points for the other. I don't care if Taylen Green is able to own a team and own a game and play really well because he rushes for 250 yards or he throws for 250 yards. I don't care if it means success, if it means being able to be great on the field and be a great quarterback. Like, that's what matters the most to me. But there is a difference between being a guy who can run but fumbles easily or gets hurt easily because he's not making good decisions, or a quarterback that's trying to force throws and ends up having picks. The choice that you make in that one split second can make or break your game, can make or break that play, can make or break a season in a lot of cases. And I'm not envious of anybody. Sure, Ryan Mallett, rest in peace, 1-5. His choices were easy. You throw. Don't run. Throw. And if you can't throw away. Choices. But all the choice was always with, hey, no matter what, I'm getting rid of this. I'm getting rid of this. Whew. Same thing with a lot of quarterbacks. It made it easy, but it's the balance of understanding, having confidence in both sides of it. Sure, I can go and get 5 yards on this run, but if I wait just another half second, this guy's going to be open and I can make a laser throw and I can gain 20 yards. It's that split decision making that Taylen Green has to be on top of. I'm not telling you anything you don't know. It's the quarterback position. It's extremely difficult to play it, and you have to be a very highly intelligent, highly aware, high IQ person to do it effectively. But what makes me feel good is that you cannot play for Bobby Petrino at quarterback and not be that. You have to be a highly intelligent person. You have to be able to understand the choices that you make, when to risk it and when not to risk it. And those are the things that I would love to get into the locker room, or at least get maybe into the mind of a Petrino and a Taylen and be like, so how do you work on this? Is it simple reps? Is it simply you have it or you don't? Is it simply going through film? Is it simply just practicing every day? I mean, what makes that an effective drill to work on, an effective skill position, a skill set to work on? You know, that's something that I think is up to the coaches and players, because every coach and player is different. But if Taylen Green can just make good choices, this is a duh statement, but if Taylen Green can just make good choices in those split seconds, more often than not, he's not going to be perfect every time. But if he just does that more often than not, then Arkansas is going to have a good year, because both are extremely effective with his passing, with his running. And it doesn't matter what you do as long as you make the right decision. It doesn't matter which side you go and what type of play you run or the type of drive that you have. It doesn't matter to me. What matters to me is, can you make good choices? Not in life. We know that. I'm not talking about that. I'm not even talking about making good choices and what plays to run or what to call an audible on or anything. I'm talking about in those split seconds where it's the ball is snapped and you got what seems like to us maybe a long time, but in that quarterback's mind, you got just few precious seconds. Can you make the right decisions? I'm hoping so. And if Taylen Green, as much as you may not like the guy Kyler Murray, but if Taylen Green can have a Kyler Murray year, man, I think we'll all be just fine. I'm going to talk about a little basketball. J.J. Andrews, man, continues to be extremely impressive. I think the Razorbacks got him a good one. We'll talk about why here in a second, so stay with us here on the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. All right, Razorback fans, I'm here to tell you about our friends over at Monarch Money. You ever wish that managing your money was easier? I know I do. Because with Monarch Money, you can do it. Whether you're growing your savings or planning a big purchase, Monarch puts you in the driver's seat. It's like having your own personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over all of your finances. Monarch Money is more than just a budgeting app. It's a complete and financial command center. You can track all of your accounts, investments, and spending all in one place. So in addition to managing your money, you're also building wealth. The thing about it is that we all want to be able to have as much money as possible so we can buy a lot of cool things. We can go on a lot of cool trips. We can go to a lot of Razorback games. You want to have that money. Well, those little changes and adjustments to managing your money can make all the difference in the world. So take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONCollege for half off your first year. All right, so moving on into the next segment of the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. We'll talk a little basketball here because, let's be honest, people are always interested in basketball, especially when it comes to the Razorbacks, especially when it comes to John Calipari, which we'll talk a little bit about that here in a second. But I wanted to give a shout out to J.J. Andrews, the commitment of the 2026 player that is a 4-star player and is rapidly flying up to be a 5-star, what it looks like. But son of Sean Andrews, former Razorback, and also a guy that just seems to have it all. I mean, 6'6", 220 pounds. Well, either way, he's been having a really good summer. It felt like he was going to be going to some other school that when Arkansas wasn't big on him, and then he just started growing, man. He just started getting after it. And he's adding to that where he was able to get the MVP of the Peach Jam Championship. He led his Brad Beal Elite team to their second straight championship, by the way. 75-55. So they were playing their 12th game in 11 days. That's insane. I talked about Omaha being that way in College World Series, so many games in so little days. 12 games in 11 days is a lot. But he was able to, according to Hogs Sports here, and they're talking about, it says he was held to just 2 points, 4 rebounds, and 1 assist at halftime. But then in the second half, he scored 18 points and getting a tough layup in the third quarter. And he also put him up 52-43 and set up his 10-point fourth quarter performance, which put a final nail in the coffin, where he finished with 20 points, 6 rebounds, 2 assists, and a steal, while going perfect 6 of 6 from the charity stripe. Now, I'm bringing up all of this because it is so much fun. And this is just a reminder of it right here, guys. Like, you could read the stats. You know how good he is. You know he's a 5-star player. You know all these things. But the reason I'm bringing it up is because it's a friendly reminder of just how awesome and how nice it is to be that program, to be that team, to have that coach, to be in the mix for every major event that ever has big-time players. And Peach Jam is one of those big-time things. To be able to be just a part of it, and your player that you have committed, that's big time, they are a part of it. That, almost took it for granted for so long. And it kind of felt this way in football a little bit. Like the Under Armour All-American game doesn't do much for me. Never really has, because Arkansas has never had players involved. On occasion they would, but it's never really been their thing. Same thing with signing day. Back when it was legit signing day and you had someone put it on a hat. Yeah, back then it meant something cool. But Arkansas was never really a part of those things very often. But in basketball, especially here recently, and now with the Cal factor taking over, it's even more so, to where you have all different types of teams that are looking at Arkansas and all different types of players going to Arkansas. It gives me reasons to watch and reasons to be interested in the Peach Jam. For instance, I could have given 2 rips about the Peach Jam. I could have given 2 rips about any of these other major events that are happening in prep basketball. But because we're getting to the point to where Arkansas has either a commitment from one of them, or a signee from one of them, or they are the top of the list for one of them, it just makes it so much more interesting and so much better. It really does. I'm not going to take it for granted ever again. And to know that players are improving, it's not this, oh, well, you got this one player that's overrated, or this one player that's like, he's a 5-star, but he's actually not that good. I felt that kind of way about Bay Fall. Y'all remember him. He was a McDonald's All-American, but just never really panned out. I'm not hating on the kid. I'm just saying, sometimes you get those types of players that on paper it looks great, but then it doesn't, maybe not live up to the hype, live up to the expectation that comes along with it. Well, for Arkansas, it feels like you're about to have those with these 2 McDonald's All-Americans you have on the team, with Darius Acuff and Malik Thomas, and people like J.J. Andrews and others that you're going to get. These are ones that are panning out. These are ones that are hitting. So it's just awesome to see, and I'm excited about basketball, and I'm excited about this element to it as well. Speaking of basketball, though, John Calipari had a great little podcast on John Rothstein. And, man, he had a few interesting things to say, but this man ain't leaving. He's staying at Arkansas. He's going to retire here, and I'm going to tell you why. So stay with us here on the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. All right, so final segment here on the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. So John Calipari, anytime he does something, it's always fun. It's always interesting. Maybe I fell for it. Maybe we all are falling for it, and that's fine. I'm good with it because I can't get enough of it. Anytime this man goes on a podcast, I'm there for it. Anytime the man goes on Pat McAfee, I'm there for it. Anytime the guy goes and, blows his nose, he's just like, oh, man, I wonder what that means. It's just, there's so much fascination surrounding him. Well, he went on the John Rothstein podcast. Now, I'm going to play a clip just to kind of troll here in a second. But the first thing that I wanted to bring up with it was about the fact that he's mentioned, he's like, oh, I'm not interested in doing broadcasting at any point, and not interested in coaching anywhere else. People say, like, oh, yeah, any coach says that. But as weird as it is, I feel like Cal might be the coach that I have the most confidence in that is not leaving Arkansas. I mean, it's crazy that, Dave Van Horn's not leaving, but that's what the element of Cal being here, that's what it feels like. Almost every football coach that has been here at Arkansas always feel like there's a chance for him to leave. Now, none of them really have. Most of them, in fact, all of them have gotten fired in my lifetime, essentially. But there's always that feeling that, somebody could come in and have them move on. Sam Pittman might be the one exception to that. But there's always that element. People say Houston Nutt. Houston Nutt interviewed for Nebraska and wanted the LSU job. Like, there was always those things going on. But Muss, as much as I love Muss, I knew when Muss got hired, he wasn't going to finish his career here. It would have been nice in some cases at the time, but I knew he wasn't going to finish it here. Mike Anderson, yeah, but still, there was always things of money talks. And I don't know if Mike would have left for another job if he was doing fine here, but point is, it's just nice to have that stability, and it's nice to have that confidence for a coach that you really want. Because there's nothing worse than having that stability for a coach you don't want. And then that's like, how do we change this? How do we get somebody different? But it's just nice to have that where you want Cal. Cal's awesome. Cal's the big name, but you're not the stepping stone. You're not the little thing. He's like, he's just doing this for funsies until he gets something better. There's not that element to it, so which is really nice. But he also talked about this with Rothstein and dealing with the Arkansas-Kentucky game from this past season. I always got to play these clips.
What was it like that night to go back and coach against Kentucky at Rupp Arena?
Looking back now, I'm like, that was a heck of a win to be able to do that for these kids and all that. I will tell you that they rallied, and they were in my office that week before. We're getting them. Don't worry, coach. And I'm like, wow, they made me feel very comfortable going into the game. But after the game, John, believe me, we were 1-6. We just needed to win. I didn't care who it was. Now it's in the summer and you're looking back, and we have a year to celebrate that kind of game. And it did turn our season. We went from 1-6 to win that, go to Texas, win that. And all of a sudden the whole thing changed for us.
Now, I love the fact that Cal feels that way now, because looking back on it, as he says, it was a great win. And sometimes in those moments of the season, you don't realize how good of a win you have or how much of an important win it is until you get through the season. At that time, I'll never forget being there in Lexington, how good it felt, how satisfying it felt. It was funny to me. I still thought it was hilarious that Arkansas was able to do that. But still, part of me was like, okay, they're 2-6 now. Was this just a one-time game? They went all out for this one, and then we're going to see the same team revert back to it the next week. Well, luckily, that didn't happen. Arkansas still lost some games they shouldn't have after that fact, but they were a different team. They were much better, and they were higher quality. So it's just fun to hear those things and to hear them reflect on it and how much fun it was. And, just knowing that this season, there's going to be those moments too. There may be a game. Maybe it's Kentucky. I don't know. Or just flips over, clicks on, and everything gets going the right direction. Would be nice if that actually happened. So either way, appreciate each and every one of you listening in and watching into the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. Be sure to like and subscribe to the podcast on iTunes or on Google Play. You can also get after me on Twitter at John Nabors Show for any questions, comments, concerns that you may have. We'll keep it going from there. Same podcast time, same podcast channel. Tomorrow afternoon. Have a great day, everybody. We'll see you then.